Okay, so I think we're good to start. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Open Consultation Hour, Get to Know IDS. My name is Guilia Giussani, and I'm Digital Innovation Manager at IDSA. And today I'm here with two of my colleagues.
So I'm Antoine Garnier. Hello. I'm also Innovation Project Manager, and I'm mostly working on the EU project at IDSA.
Okay, hello, Christoph Mertens, my name. I'm the head of adoption here at IDSA, and I'm responsible for bringing what other peoples define in regards of the IDS standard to companies so they are able to include it into their products and sell IDS-based products. A little more about what I'm doing in a second, so I leave it to that for now. Julia, I think your connection.
Yeah. I think I have connection problems, so I've turned out the cameras. I hope it's fine like this.
And yeah, we can hear you well.
Okay, perfect. So the aim of today's session is to make you understand what IDS is and what is the benefit and the purpose of IDS. We would like to have the session pretty interactive. So we will have 40 minutes Q&A session. Before that, I think it's important that we provide some basic concepts so that everyone can start on the same level and has a basic understanding of IDS. To start, I think it's important to give you some notions about IDSA. So the association was born in 2016, so almost 4 years ago, and it started from an initiative of 18 founding members that wanted to provide an architecture and a solution for data sovereignty. In these last years, many things has changed and progressed, and we are happy to have now more than 110 partners from 20 countries. So here you can see the logos of our partners. As I've mentioned, we've now reached more than 110 partners from 20 countries. And we have 350 people collaborating at our working groups and research projects. As I said, we have 7 official hubs so far. We have VTT in Finland, Institut Min Telecom in France, TEAD is our latest one in Greece, Sheffield in Milan, TNO in the Netherlands, Innovalia in Spain, and the Czech Technical University in Prague in Czech Republic. So I think it's important that now we move on to the topic of data sovereignty, and Antoine will give us some insights and definition of what data sovereignty is and its main principles.
Thank you, Julia. So this is a very important slide for us. Actually, it translates the problem that many people are encountering once they want to share data. The thing is that we are lacking of a large agreement on identity, or you're missing trust when you want to share data with unknown partners. So the real problem here is that you always have to make a trade-off between a large interoperability and, on the other hand, security. And you always have to compare what you lose against what you win. And we think that this is definitely a false problem, and that you should not have to choose between this interoperability on one side and the security on the other side. And we think that this data sovereignty is the true solution to solve that problem. Please, next slide. And then it is really this data sovereignty that let you share exactly what you want, the way you want, and offer the solution depending on the sensitivity of the data. And this really empower you with the possibility to adjust your consent at the level you want. So this concept is really at the center of what IDSA is developing. And next slide, please. This is this capability that must help to leverage more data. And this is exactly why we think that data sovereignty is the concept that should help to make this data space a true reality, facilitating the uptake of data sharing economy by companies. So that's why IDSA is providing the design principle. So next slide, please. Of really the design principle for data space. So what does it mean? First, you have this interoperability, which is in our framework completely domain agnostic. It means that you can exchange every kind of data you want in our ecosystem, no matter which kind of data it is and which kind of ontology it is using. So it enables cross-domain data exchange, and that's the main point. Then, regarding the trust, again, it's a matter of extending the possibility of sharing data with certified participants that are certified by the third-party authority, so meaning someone external and neutral. And then it allows to exchange basically data with everyone, and especially with a non-partner. If you think that, or if you trust this third-party authority, then it lets you exchange data with whoever is certified by this authority. And last and least, and this is the last stage of the rocket, most probably what makes IDSA the specificity of IDSA, this is the usage control, which probably represent the best what sovereignty is. And this is where you can put specific condition under which the data will be consumed. And provide a fine-grained sovereignty. So, in one word, next slide, please. What IDSA is offering is this, or what I did is in this overall ecosystem description is including a reference architecture that is really setting the framework condition for this exchange, but also this trust framework I was speaking about. And last and least, the fine-grained sovereignty under which your data can be shared. And what it will enable, basically, this is an open and distributed data ecosystem, which are not already the main model. If you think to centralized models that are obviously dominating the market today. So this is a different vision that we are providing, and this is all based on sovereignty. So if we are going a bit deeper, what is exactly IDSA? So let's think about a large peer-to-peer network where you have to use a client. So here, this is the blue dots, which are the IDSA connector, which are actually gateways. Once you have these gateways implemented in your premises, you are able to share data with whoever is connected in this ecosystem and apply it. And this is the most important part. Any kind of usage constraint on this data. So it means that whatever or whoever you are, if you are a certified participant, you are allowed to share this data. If we go a bit deeper now, and if we're talking about the connector, thank you. We have already this connector, which is really the central part of the IDSA model. This is already not certified, standardized, sorry, under the German standardization body, the DIN. So the name of the standard is the DIN 27070. Security gateway for data sharing and services. This is available already. It provides 4 different security profiles which are actually the profile that you can choose to join the ecosystem I was talking about. And obviously, these security profiles are different and offering different security level, which allow you, but also give you some rights regarding this ecosystem, and giving rights and obligation to the stakeholder that are in the same ecosystem equally. So the specification concerning this this connector, so I'm on the bottom left of the slide, are available on GitLab. You can find a lot on our IDSG GitHub. So feel free to go there, and the idea is to have more of this implementation available in the future. There are already several of them available and developed. And at the end of the day, no matter which technology stack you're using, the idea is to have it certified by a certification facility, which are also described in our model. And this kind of security certification facility will be described. Maybe Christoph, my colleague, could say a word about that, because we are working on one of them, which will be able to certify component in the near future.
Yeah, so we have already a few companies. So certification for one part has to be done for the participants of an IDS ecosystem. Yep. And for all the components, starting from the connector all the way up to the applications you want to use within the ecosystem. And first companies like SQS from Spain, Fraunhofer, SIG, a German sensor company, whom did I forget? Technalia from Spain also, TÜV Süd from Germany, and others plan to be such evaluation facilities that have a close look to your components that you implemented following the reference architecture, and then granting you the certificate. This is the general story, and the point where we're standing is that for the time being, the logo you can see on the right lower corner, the IDS Ready statement, is some sort of pre-certification, which is already available. You can have a look at it on our website. But the real certification is not yet up and running. We are in the very final steps of finalizing the criteria catalogs, setting up the operational processes in order to be able to certify your components. And this will be available towards the end of this year. So after the summer break, we expect it to be ready in September, actually. And the first products that will be certified will be shown in a second, some of them at least.
Thank you. So then I think we can move on. Maybe a last detail. I was talking about this standard that is at the German level, so to say. Today, it's on its way. It's on its way, yeah, to ISO to make an international standard now. So yeah, just as an element, as we have an international audience. Yeah, talking about usage control, as I said, it's really a central piece of what we are doing at IDSA. And talking about the connector, this usage control is executed in the connector. So it's really linked. And what is exactly usage control? As I said, it gives you the possibility to apply condition under which your data will be consumed. And at the end of the day, what are those conditions? They are making the agreements that enable you to exchange your data the way you want. So this is why usage control participate to really transform your data set into economic asset. So that's why we think this is so essential, so to say. But looking at that a bit deeper, because you're probably asking yourself how it works and what are exactly this usage control, you most probably know what is access control, because this is already existing, and it makes easier to manage people within an organization or accessing a service, but it's just role management. And this is what we are doing currently. We think that we can move to obligation management to have a more fine-grained obligation condition under which your data can be consumed. And adding the two of them is what we do in IDSA in the model. So on one side, we have the access control through the certification part I was talking about, and on the other side, you have the usage control that put a higher grain, a finer grain sovereignty. And then the next slide, please. Concerning this, again, this difference between the access and the usage, and maybe to provide you some example also. So on the left side of the picture, you have basically what you're doing when you are making access control, meaning that you're checking who the people are to access your service, where is located, with which device is doing it. So very brief check and formal check, so to say, before accessing to your resource. What we are doing and what we think is how to grant a refined usage on the data and put some time constraint, for example. Let's say that you are accepting that the data can be shared, but only for a limited time, or you want only some specific kind of stakeholder to access the data. Let's say that you don't want your competitor, obviously, to access this data, but all the rest of the ecosystem can be able to access this data, or you'd prefer to make it anonymized before being shared. So you can add several conditions before sharing your data. And this is basically what we are doing at IDSA. And next slide, please. And this is what makes really the specificity of this ecosystem, and really help, we think, and we hope to make this ecosystem thrive and become global. So thank you on my side. I think Julia will take over the presentation and follow me with the next slide.
Perfect. Thank you, Antoine. I think it's now way clear how IDS will aims to enable open, neutral, trustworthy ecosystems for the data economy. I think it's worth spending a couple of minutes more on two aspects. The one is the roles that can be found in an IDS ecosystem, and the other one is the current state. I will explain the roles, and then Christoph will tell you more about the current activities. So to explain the roles in an IDS ecosystem, we'd like to use the metaphor of the motorway. So in a motorway, we find different drivers, and they are our data owners and data users. Why do they join the ecosystem? Apart from the data monetization or standardization reasons, the former join the ecosystem because they want to stay in control of their data, and the other one join the ecosystem because they want to provide that they had the right to use the data. To let them share their data in a sovereign way, an infrastructure must be there, and this is the role played by the infrastructure provider of IDS, for example, the identity provider or the certification providers. During a journey, it might happen that drivers need to stop to refuel or to buy some food. So in an IDS ecosystem, that role is taken from some service providers related to data services. So the broker or the app store or the vocabulary provider. The last role that we have is the role of IDSA, who's up to ensuring that trust is in the ecosystem. So these are the main roles that we can find, and we can see them displayed in the next slide from another view. So here you can see the data owner and the data user at the two opposite sides. And we can see, for example, the broker service, the clearinghouse, and app store provider in the center, and all the different types of transactions that happen in the ecosystem. And through the next slide, we can position some of our partners into different roles. We can see IBM and ZIC as data providers, or Fraunhofer and SQS as certification bodies. But I think now it's time to give you some updates about the current situation of IDS.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. So this slide here shows you that for all of the roles that the IDS reference architecture defines, there are partners already involved since quite a time in implementing it and refining the definition of the standard. Maybe before going into some concrete examples, all of what you heard was created by the IDSA and its members. And the way we do that is twofolded, basically. So on the one hand side, on the left side of this slide, you can see the evolution of the IDS offering. This includes the reference architecture, and it includes what we call the rule book. So not only a technical view on the IDS standard, but also an operational view with process descriptions, with legal issues that are behind the topic of data sovereignty and data sharing. We created MVPs together with our members. We talked in depth in the last 2 years about certification criteria in order to come up with what I already explained a minute ago with the certification of components and partners in the ecosystem. And on the other hand side, and this is where I said, okay, I will tell you a little more about it. We have the adoption and proliferation activities here. And this is about bringing what we defined and wrote down into Gits and white papers and reference architecture models to companies in order to allow them to include connectors and other IDS ideas into their already existing products or into the products that they are building currently. What this will bring to you as someone who makes use of the IDS standard is data sovereignty for your platform, for your marketplace, and therefore also to your customers that with what we described on the left-hand side will be able to, so they will be able to use this afterwards when they follow the standard. Besides, so this activity of adoption goes into different areas. So for one, in order to make it really international, we have what we call the international hub facilitators. In each country, not yet in each country, but we plan to have it in each country. We want to have hub facilitators that are the connecting point to the local SME scene, to the local companies, to the political level of a country, because we, as you know, we have our head office here in Germany, and we are not able to anticipate all the specific issues that you have in your countries. Understanding the culture also is part of this, and the hub facilitators help us with that. Julia showed the list of already existing hubs already. We have alliances, so SME Alliance is one of them. We have different communities for different verticals. So for the industry community, we're having already a community. We are in the phase of planning a mobility community that deals with the automotive and mobility specific issues of data sovereignty. We have liaisons with many companies from all over the world, with the Data Trading Alliance, with other companies from Japan, with companies from overseas, America, and so on and so forth, in order to not create something that we think is right, but what we really want to do is to co-create standards that a lot of people can commit themselves to and follow it, because what we told you now from the story point of view only makes sense if a lot of people participate in these ecosystems. Otherwise, it will be senseless. It's like with a telephone. If you only have 3 people in the world having a telephone, it doesn't make too much of a sense. What you can see in yellow here on the right side is the launching coalition. So the slide before showed you that there are many companies taking care about the roles that the IDS standard defines. And what we did with the launching coalition is we brought a smaller number of companies that are really, really committed to what we explained to you now in order to make it ready for the market. So we have, since quite a long time, MVPs, proof of concepts, demonstrators on fairs. All of this already exists since quite some time. What now is missing is a crucial step, a last step, but a very hard step actually, to bring it to the market, to finalize the operational descriptions, to really put a check mark behind the catalogs of criteria for certification, and so on and so forth, to really make it a reliable standard that you can use in your products, and where you can say, okay, I can not only trust that what is written in books is reliable, but also the components that stand behind that. If it's a CA, a certificate authority that grants you an X509 certificate, or other essential components, that they are really up 24/7. And the number of companies and use cases you can see here are forming the so-called launching coalition, who committed to the goal to come up with solutions for all of the essential components until end of this year. We had, due to Corona, to postpone the deadline a little bit. We initially planned the beginning of the year to come up with everything until September. We now postponed it to give it more time because it's so crucial and so important until November. So end of November now is our new deadline in order to have all the essential components, certification, and everything in place for those who want to join the game, to certify their own connectors and components, and to step into that story of data sovereignty. And this would be it from my side. Maybe one comment for you. So in case you have questions, we have several ways how you can raise these. There's a questions section here in GoToWebinar where you can write them down and we can get back to you by this, or you can raise your hand, and if you do that, we can unmute you and you can step into the discussion with us directly. So either ways work for us. Okay, and with this, back to Julia. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Christoph. I think these were really important insights on our current state and current activities. But now we will be really happy to answer your questions.
Maybe I can start with a little piece of information then. As I was talking about our GitHub, which should become the major source of information for IDSA component, I'll use the time to just share the URL to be found by all of you. That's already something, even if I guess it's also in the document that you can find actually available just up, just above, sorry, the chat section. You have two documents that are our slides, so the one that we just presented, but also information about what IDSA is providing and the standard we are talking about for some since the beginning of this presentation.
If you want to explore the content of IDSG, please make sure that you have a look at the draft branch. In the master branch, there currently is not too much content yet, but the draft branch is, especially when it comes to the dynamic attributes provisioning service, the DApps component, quite announced, and we're in the final steps of bringing this to the master branch. I can see there's a first question. So Hideki Yagi asked for some more information on the role of IDSA hubs. Let me read it out so everyone has the context. So what is the role of IDS hubs? At first I thought it is a kind of liaison, but there is a separately described in the presentation slide. What is the actual role of an IDSA hub? So let me get back maybe to the slide where we have the already existing hubs in order to explain that to you. So the companies that you can see here, first of all, they are all non-for-profit or research-oriented. This is a thing that is important in case you are maybe interested in becoming an IDSA hub for your specific country. Besides that, the role of them is really to represent the head office in their specific country. We got to a point very quickly where we saw that, first of all, due to language and to cultural issues, it can be very tricky to step into a specific country with a topic when it comes to standardization. And therefore, we looked out for help on this topic, and quite quickly had a number of, I think we started with 6 hubs that were eager to help us to teach others in their country about the IDS standard. So we are in the phase of setting up train-the-trainer sessions where we invite our hubs, for instance, and give them deep insights into the technical side of IDS, so they are enabled to again invite companies or partners from research projects they're involved in order to teach people how to build IDS connectors, how IDS ecosystems work, and so on and so forth. And we also had a live session, for instance, to give you an example what they are currently doing, a live session about IDS connectors in Spanish by our Spanish hub, Innovalia. Which of course helps a lot of people. I mean, English is a language of choice when it comes to collaboration, but as all of you might know, it's always good to have it in your mother tongue explained, and it's more precise, and yeah, it's easier to understand the overall topic. So they are our connection point to local companies for once. So they try to get new members on board, and they help us to get into contact with local governments, standardization bodies, and so on and so forth. I think this is, in a nutshell, what the hubs are mostly doing.
Maybe to be back to the question, or maybe just to add a little thing. I think it goes further than just a liaison, in my understanding, because they are really acting, representing IDSA on the national level. So even if we are constantly discussing with our hubs, when we have things to decide, they are really representing the association, because it's not only spreading the ideas, it's also really helping the takeover, the takeover of the uptake, sorry, of the standard abroad, in Europe first.
Yeah. So liaison, just to put a dot behind that, a liaison can be also just to commit yourself to write papers, join papers with us. This would be a point that we say makes sense with the liaison. The hubs go much further than that. Yeah. Okay. For the time being, there are no more questions in the questions section, at least. Let me check if someone raised their hand in order to step into the interactive discussion. That is not the case. So from my side, I think, Guilia?
I think we just get a new one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 now.
2 now. Very good. You're taking the opportunity. That's good. So another question from Hideki Yagi, who should develop IDS connectors? He's giving an example. So for example, my company provides application services on using cloud vendor like AWS, Google, Azure. It means that the data is actually stored in that cloud storage. In this case, who should develop IDS connectors? Data owners, cloud storage vendors, application service providers, and so on and so forth. Okay, so maybe I can give a start of this answer, and Antoine and Julia, you can go adding. In the case that the data is not with the actual owner, the first thing that we want to change is exactly that. So we believe that data should stay with the owner. And the only reason why people currently are brought to a point where they share their data or they upload their data to Amazon Web Services, Google, Azure, or whatever makes sense for you to use, is that there is no other way to make use of the services that the cloud services you named are providing. And when you apply the IDS concept, at the end, everybody literally who has an interest in sharing their data or using applications in a way where you really can be assured that the application you use for, I don't know, data crunching, analysis, or graphical depiction of data. If you really want to be sure that these services do not do things that are beyond your will, we believe that you have to have an IDS connector on your side as the owner, and also the service provider on his side. And only by providing, by sending the data via the connectors then, and making use of IDS certified applications and services, you will be able to assure data sovereignty to 100%. Of course, this has a lot of shades of gray. So not for every data set you want this high level of data sovereignty. There might be situations and use cases where you have a lower demand for safety, security, data sovereignty. We don't have to go all the way through IDS. But at the end, to make clear what IDS stands for, we always tend to tell the black and white story to make clear what this is about. And so yeah, literally data owner, service providers, cloud storage providers. I also have one slide that might help to show you that if I'm able to skip slides. Yeah, so sorry, that was too far. So this slide really shows the point in saying everybody should have a connector. This is not saying it has to develop a connector, because the already mentioned launching coalition, we have partners in this launching coalition who do the developing for you. So there will be an offering of IDS connectors that, in case you decide to buy one, only have to be configured. So you don't have to go through all the certification processes and developing processes anymore, but you deploy the connector in your IT systems, which you believe demand a very high level of trust. And then you can use them. And here you can see it's not only the companies in a supply chain like depicted on the bottom, but also IoT clouds, data marketplaces, industrial data clouds, enterprise clouds, and maybe as additional source for data, open data sources. So everything should be connected at the end that has a demand for data sovereignty.
And actually, maybe because it gives me time to think when you were talking, the idea when talking about AWS, Google, and Azure is just to reintroduce some more equality of treatment, because all of them should be just treated as a endpoint. So you're free to do and share your data the way you want. You can develop connectors or use connectors that would be available for those vendors, service provider. but at the end of the day, it's just like reintroducing this equality between stakeholder ones sharing data, in a word.
Yeah, so thank you, Hideki, for these excellent questions. You can see an easy question can have very long answers. Let's see, there's a third question by Marion Jungblut. More information, you can explain the usage control at a concrete example. So I don't know, Antoine, do you want to elaborate a little on usage control?
What I can...
Do you have a concrete example? I try to go to the slide. That could make it easier. Sorry, Antoine, I think you have to do it without that slide.
Because actually,
doing crazy stuff.
Talking about revoking, the possibility, the ability to get access to the data is obviously something that you could do through a time constraint, just as I presented it when I was talking, and the possibility to let people access your data, but just for a limited time, or just to put a frame, frame which are the condition under which the data can be shared. I don't know if it gives you more insight on what you can do, but this is definitely what is feasible within the IDS. And concerning the revocation, obviously it could be the case also if you lose your certificate because you infringe the policy, or you just have bad behavior in the ecosystem, and then your certificate can be revoked, and then you're not allowed anymore to access this ecosystem because you're not anymore a trusted party. I hope that is answer your question.
So a very easy example that we used to come up with when it comes to user control is if you have a data set, like let's say in CAD drawing, and you want to be sure that the 3D printing hub that is supposed to help you in printing out what you have in the CAD, you want to make sure that first the CAD drawing is not forwarded to third parties. You want to be sure that it's only printed the 500 times you wanted it to be printed, and that it's gone after the 3D printing hub did its job. So this is an example for the kind of usage control rules that you can imagine for data sets. And I think there's much more. So the examples that we easily can come up with are more or less related to things like we know them already from video on demand, for instance, like you rent a movie and it's only available for 48 hours and these kinds of things. But I think it can go much further than this. And
because actually there can be some combination also. So that's exactly the point of making an agreement.
Okay. So Marian, I hope we answered your questions. Let us know in the question section. If not, if you want more examples here, I think we got still some time left for that. In the meantime, Hideki is asking another question. So is there some sort of test kit to get an IDS ready logo? Does it depend on the type of developer? Like cloud storage vendor, edge device vendor, application provider. So I think this is a question with more than one answer. So first, there is no restriction who should be the one who is developing a connector. So in either of your examples, if you're a cloud storage provider, an edge device vendor, an application provider, if you decide for yourself that you want to step into the business of building connector, rather either it be only for your platforms or for other customers, you can do that. Currently, you have to be an IDSA member in order to do that. also in order to run through the certification processes. But I think this is the only limitation that is to that. So for certain roles that you were able to see in the role model slide, you have to be a member in order to take that role. My computer is really slow. I'm sorry for that. I tried to go to the slide again to show you what kind of roles are behind that. So yeah, I think the only roles that do not demand that you become a member of the association is if you are a data owner or a user of data without having developed your own connectors. In case you step into the game of developing connectors, developing applications that are specifically there to be used within a connector, in case you start building essential components or infrastructure components here in the middle part, you have to become a member in order to become certified. But besides that, you're good to go for IDS. And the question with the IDS Ready logo, so on our webpage, maybe in the meantime, when I talk, I can try to find the link and put it into the chat. You can approach, currently I think it's Nadia Menz from Fraunhofer Focus, who is taking care about the IDS Ready statement. You can send her an email requesting such a procedure. So going through an IDS Ready statement process requires a certain, you have to go through some steps in order to get that. And she will be able to answer you which are the exact steps, what kind of effort is behind that, and so on and so forth.
Maybe to complete that, because you were mentioning kind of a test kit, you can find on our website too, and I will link the specific address for that, our paper on the framework for IDS certification that can give you ideas on how a certification is done, which will give you access to this kind of logo just to self-assess your components. I think this is definitely the first step. But as mentioned by Christoph also, at some point you might be needing, especially if you want to develop more than connectors and other components, to join to join the association.
So in the meantime, I found what I was looking for. I already included the link. Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
I have here another link that leads you to an article describing a little more about the IDS Ready statement. And within this article, you find a link that leads you to more information on how to get through this procedure. Okay, then Marion, you have another question here. You say, I understand it is some technically certification, but is these totally secure? I'm not sure if I get the point totally here. It's first of all, we would have to define what is totally secure. So the technical certification, maybe this is the easy part of the question, is regarding the certification story. It's not only a technical certification, it's also a certification of the participants. So if you want to be a provider of data in the IDS ecosystem, you have to be certified also. Not going through all the technical stuff, but you have at least to have opened your doors in some regards in order to let evaluation facilities check that you are the one who you're supposed to be, that you follow a certain number of criteria. In case you did develop your own connector, of course, the technical certification story starts. But in case you bought a connector from a service provider, the certification of the technical components is already something that is done, and you can start doing the data exchange game. Either it is because you want to sell your data, or you want to make use of a certain application that is available in the ecosystem, and so on and so forth. So that is the story behind. And is that totally secure? Yeah, this is almost a philosophical question here. We could talk about that, I think, for hours. It already starts with when you get back to the example of the CAD drawing, for instance. If you open it up on your screen, of course, it will be possible to make a photo of it or to redraw it on your drawing board. So where does total security start and where does it end? This is really a tricky question. But yes, it is more secure and on a much, much higher level of data sovereignty than everything you would be able to experience with other approaches currently.
Yeah, maybe just a short comment to complete that about this totally secure. I think this is difficult to reach the 100% security in any environment. What we propose instead is a trusted environment, a place where, just Christoph said, you open your doors in some extent, and where stakeholders are trusting each other to share some asset. And this is the way we are providing security, and where you can obviously execute some sovereignty policies. So yeah, this fine-grained sovereignty.
So Marion, you're now asking what happens if there is a misuse. So there is a component defined in the reference architecture called DTM. It's a monitoring component that tries to detect all of the misuses that might occur on a technical level. I mean, we are not accessing your camera in order to see if you started drawing what you can see on the screen in the example of the CAD drawing. But what happens on a technical level? So for instance, if you as an owner of the CAD drawing said, I don't want this drawing to leave the connector of the one who receives it and is supposed to print it, but he extracts it to a USB stick and gives it away to others. This is something that we expect to be trackable, and that has to be tracked. And in case you misbehave to the rules that the CAD owner defined, your digital X509 certificate with which you have been granted your digital identity will be revocated. So you won't be able to make use of the IDS ecosystem until the point where you either can prove that this was a failure of the system or whatever. So you will for sure have to go through some recertification in that case. This is how we foresee it. So detecting misuses, revocating certificates, and only getting back the one who misbehaved to the system after reassuring that everything is working properly. Yeah, you're welcome, Marion. And I think we have 3 minutes. This would give us the time for another short question, maybe, in case you still have some. Otherwise, I would say we give it back to our moderator, Julia, in order to say goodbye to you. Already, thank you from my side, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Christoph. So if there are no other questions, we can close today's live session. Thank you very much for joining us today. We hope that you, despite the technical problems, you enjoyed the session as well. Do not hesitate to contact us if you have some more doubts, or if you would like to have some more insights. We can show you our next live sessions that are planned for September, and others will be added soon. Thank you, Christoph. So yeah, these are 3 live sessions that we have already planned, but others you will be able to find them on our website. Yeah, so we hope that you also believe that data sovereignty is really crucial and that data sharing is better than playing alone when data sovereignty is in place. So let's keep in touch, and thanks again for joining today's session. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day and week. Bye-bye.